Hello and welcome to this short video on leadership development. Leadership development is not just about honing your skills so that you climb further and further up the corporate ladder. It's about understanding yourself so that you can become the best possible version of yourself. Understanding yourself means coming face to face with your strengths and your weaknesses alike, and finding ways to turn your weaknesses into opportunities for further development. Understanding your personality type means understanding how the traits of that personality type form a dynamic with your leadership style, and how in turn that affects the organization within which you work, the people you lead, and the colleagues and teammates with whom you work. Being able to take feedback. 360-degree feedback is probably the best feedback you can engage in. This means getting feedback from not just colleagues and teammates at the same level as you, but getting feedback from people higher up in positions that are higher than yours, getting feedback from your direct reports and even from their direct reports in terms of your performance and how you come across as a leader. That feedback can be extremely insightful and provide you with a wealth of knowledge, which will in turn enable you to make improvements faster and take opportunities for leadership growth. A support network is critical. Now, a support network is not just about people who are there to support you, but it's about people who inspire you. You have to think about the people you associate with. Who do you hang with, if you like? Do you associate more with people that are solution-focused and forward-thinking, or do you associate more with people who are stuck in their ways, problem-focused, and more likely to keep you in that position as opposed to drive you forward? Remember, Jim Rohn once said that you are the sum total of the 5 personalities that you hang out with. So think about it. Who do you associate with and where has that gotten you so far? And if you are on a journey forward, who do you need to work with in order to get there? The next thing is all about continuous learning and development. One thing about continuous learning and development is that it's exactly that. It never stops. And there's a way of doing this. Many of us have a tendency to try and get through as many books and courses as we can in a year. And while that can be advantageous in some ways, it's not as effective as learning and applying on an incremental basis. So if you read a book and you learn something in a chapter on leadership, for example, apply those principles practically in your workplace. And when you become really competent and adept at doing that, move on to the next chapter. And when you learn something from there, apply it as well. And do the same thing with your courses. Learn and apply incrementally, as opposed to reading volumes of books and becoming overwhelmed with a vast amount of information that we find difficult to apply in practical situations. Now, in line with continuous learning, I've just written and released a book called Mastering the Traits of Successful Leaders. And that book touches upon some very sensitive aspects of leadership. Things like gender bias and what are we doing to actually raise the profile of the plight of women in leadership. It also looks at racism and challenges with diversity in leadership. And while we have policies for these things, what are we actually doing to make them come to life in reality? The book looks at iconic leaders like Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, Jose Mujica, who is quite a lesser-known leader, people like Jacinda Ardern, Mahatma Gandhi, and looks at how they've applied different leadership principles and styles, what successes they've had and what failures they've experienced. And it also looks at little minions like myself who are still young in the leadership aspect of things. And, some of the struggles that I've been through on my leadership journey, some of the extremely hard lessons that I've learned, and what I could have, should have, or would have done in order to avoid those pains. It also looks at some of the things I've managed to accomplish and then compares it to people like Steve Jobs, the mighty Steve Jobs, and the United Nations, for example, and looks at their leadership principles and styles and what successes, wins and losses have come from those. So apart from being a book that looks at leadership principles in general, It's different to most of the leadership books out there because there are thousands and probably millions of them. The book that I've done is a very practical approach to leadership and includes worksheets and templates and instructions that can be used in order to document and journal your leadership journey so that you can closely monitor it and improve where you need to make the improvements. So I look forward to you reading my book and giving me feedback on it. And I'll catch you on here again in the next few days with another video. Thank you for listening.